All right. So today we're diving into a story that sounds like something right out of, like a financial thriller, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the dark web and like billions in Bitcoin.
Wow.
And even whispers of presidential pardons.
Really?
Yeah, it's a wild one.
Yeah, that's a fascinating intersection of like law and technology and politics,
Right.
all centered around this massive Bitcoin seizure.
And when we say massive, we mean like $4.38 billion worth of Bitcoin.
Wow.
Like, to put that into perspective, that's more than some, entire companies are worth.
Yeah.
It all stems from the infamous Silk Road marketplace, which you might remember was shut down back in 2013.
Yeah, Silk Road was notorious.
Yeah.
Basically an online black market operating totally beyond the reach of traditional law enforcement.
Right.
And when the government shut it down, they seized a massive amount of Bitcoin.
Huge.
69,370 Bitcoins to be exact.
Wow.
And that's where our story really begins.
Okay, so like this seized Bitcoin has been at the center of a legal battle for years now, right?
Exactly.
So enter Battleborn Investments.
Okay.
This company is claiming that those billions are rightfully theirs.
It's an unusual claim.
What's their argument? How can they say that?
So they're arguing that they acquired the rights to this Bitcoin through a bankruptcy case that was linked to the individual who actually stole the Bitcoin from Silk Road. They essentially argued that they had a claim to the thieves' assets, which, included the stolen Bitcoin.
Interesting.
It was a long shot legal strategy, to say the least, and ultimately the courts weren't buying it.
It didn't work.
No. The Supreme Court recently declined to hear their appeal.
So that's it.
Which leaves the government holding this massive Bitcoin fortune.
So what happens now? The government just adds Crypto King to its resume and calls it a day.
Well, it's a question with far-reaching implications. This whole situation sets a precedent for the government's ability to seize and, potentially sell large amounts of cryptocurrency.
Right.
Remember earlier this year when the German government sold off part of its seized Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Well, that sent, ripples through the market.
Yeah.
It definitely affected the price and sparked all these debates about government influence and all that.
Yeah, for sure. And the U.S. holding this much Bitcoin adds a whole other layer to this, right? Especially with a presidential election just around the corner.
Exactly. This case has become entangled with the upcoming election in a way that very few could have predicted, really.
So you're saying there's a campaign trail connection here? We're dying to know more.
Well, it all centers around some comments that Donald Trump made recently about establishing a strategic Bitcoin stockpile if he were to be reelected.
Okay, hold on. A strategic Bitcoin stockpile. What does that even mean? Is he imagining a digital Fort Knox somewhere?
Yeah, the details are unclear, but it definitely suggests a shift in how certain, I guess you could say, factions of the government view cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Potentially seeing it not just as, a digital currency, but as a strategic asset.
Oh, wow. So imagine a world where governments are buying up Bitcoin, potentially impacting its value on a global scale. Now, that's something.
Yeah, and it raises questions about what this means for individual investors and, the future of crypto regulation as a whole. Will other countries follow suit?
Yeah.
How will this impact the already complex relationship between governments and the crypto market? Lots to consider.
It's like we're watching a whole new era of geopolitics unfold in real time.
Yes.
One where digital currencies could be just as influential as, oil or gold.
Right.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's rewind back to the beginning, the heart of this whole story. Silk Road.
Yeah, Silk Road.
What a story.
It's a captivating one, that's for sure. Yeah. This was the digital Wild West.
Totally.
A marketplace that was completely hidden away in the shadowy corners of the internet. It really challenged traditional notions of law enforcement.
And it was all built on Bitcoin, right?
Exactly. Bitcoin, with its decentralized nature and, that promise of anonymity, became the currency of choice for Silk Road and everyone using it.
It makes sense.
And as the marketplace itself grew, so did the amount of Bitcoin flowing through it.
Until the government shut it down.
Right.
Seizing that massive amount of Bitcoin in the process.
It was a huge story.
Huge. Do you remember how people reacted back then?
Oh, yeah. It was a mixed bag for sure. I mean, some people applauded the government, They were happy about cracking down on what they saw as basically a haven for criminal activity.
Right.
But others, well, they saw it as a step too far.
Yeah.
A dangerous precedent of government overreach into the world of cryptocurrency, which it's a tough one. It ignited this huge debate that's honestly still raging even today.
Which is?
Like, how do you balance the need to regulate potentially illicit activities with, at the same time, the desire to protect individual freedoms and foster innovation in this new technological landscape?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? It's like this case with Battledorn trying to claim the seized Bitcoin.
Exactly.
It really brings those tensions to the forefront.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? This wasn't just some company trying to make a quick buck.
Right.
This was a legal battle that really forced us, I think, to confront some really fundamental questions about, like, the nature of ownership.
Yeah.
And jurisdiction in the digital age.
Yeah.
Like, if someone steals Bitcoin, who has the right to it? What are the legal mechanisms for recovering stolen cryptocurrency?
Interesting.
These are questions that courts all around the world are still trying to figure out.
And it seems like the answers are going to have huge implications.
Oh, yeah.
And not just for individual cases like this one, but for the future of cryptocurrency as a whole.
Precisely. The way governments choose to regulate cryptocurrency will shape, well, pretty much everything. It'll shape its adoption, its value, its role in our, increasingly digital world.
It's a lot to think about, It really is. Like, on the one hand, we've got all this potential. Cryptocurrency represents this potential for innovation and, like, financial freedom, right?
Absolutely.
But then on the other hand, we have these very real concerns about criminal activity and the need for, well, at least some level of regulation.
Right. It's such a delicate balance to strike. And, this kind of brings us back to the whole presidential election thing.
Yes.
And the wild card that is, well, Donald Trump.
Exactly. His talk about a strategic Bitcoin stockpile really throws a wrench into things.
It does.
Like, what kind of impact could that have? I mean, we're talking about the global stage here.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because governments, they already hold reserves, right?
Right.
Of gold and foreign currencies and all that.
Of course, yeah.
So could Bitcoin become a new tool, like for influencing global markets or maybe hedging against economic uncertainty? It's definitely possible, right?
Yeah.
And I think if the U.S., especially under another Trump administration, were to start, acquiring these significant amounts of Bitcoin,
right,
it could set off a chain reaction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, other countries might feel like they have to follow suit.
It sounds like we could be, like, right on the edge of a global crypto arms race.
Exactly.
But, in all this talk about governments and, like, billions of dollars, it's easy to forget about the individual
right
at the heart of the Silk Road story.
Yeah.
Ross Ulbricht.
Ross Ulbricht.
What do you make of all the rumors about Trump maybe pardoning him?
That would be, a pardon for Ulbricht, that would be incredibly controversial, that's for sure. It would reignite this whole debate about whether or not his sentence was fair,
Yeah.
Because a lot of people see it as way too harsh.
Right.
And it also brings up this fundamental question of, well, how do we balance punishment with, rehabilitation, especially when it comes to crimes that are happening in this new digital world that's constantly evolving?
Yeah, it's a tough one. There are no easy answers. And it just shows how this whole case, it's about so much more than just, who gets to keep billions of dollars in Bitcoin.
Right.
It's about the future of cryptocurrency in general. It's about what role the government should play in the digital age.
Exactly.
It's about finding the balance between security and, individual freedom in a world that's becoming more interconnected every day.
It really is.
It's a story with a lot of twists and turns, and we're just starting to figure it out,
I think so.
It's definitely one we're going to need to keep revisiting as, the world of cryptocurrency and really its impact on all our lives continues to evolve.
For sure.
It really underscores the importance of staying informed, asking tough questions, really engaging in a thoughtful dialogue about these emerging technologies. Because like it or not, the future is digital.
It is.
And understanding all this complex stuff about cryptocurrency,
right,
what it all means,
yeah,
it's essential if we're going to figure out how to navigate whatever's coming next.
I couldn't agree more. Knowledge is power, right?
Exactly.
Especially in a world where we're still figuring out all the rules.
Well, there you have it, listeners. A deep dive into, well, a story full of intrigue and high stakes and, honestly, enough unanswered questions to keep us all, I think, pondering for a good long time.
I think so, too.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.